John Cleese created some of the greatest moments in television history. But now that he is 85 years old, his life has changed. For someone who earns a lot of money from Monty Python and Fawlty Towers, he is remarkably impoverished. Through 3 bitter divorces, he lost $25 million. He gave more than he kept to his third wife. To make ends meet, he now has to work long hours and travel frequently. He calls these his alimony trips. The famous comedian who has made us laugh for decades is too important for us to give up. Is there anyone who knows what became of his money? You will be surprised to learn the reality. John Cleese was born in Weston-super-Mare, Somerset, on October 27, 1939, and grew up there. Although his childhood home at 27 Locking Road appeared to be just another suburban house, it was actually occupied by a family with strict standards and a middle-class sense of decorum. In order to avoid the ridicule that accompanied having such an odd last name, his father, Reginald Francis Cleese, had changed the family name from Cheese to Cleese. Reginald worked for the Prudential Assurance Company as an insurance salesperson. Every week, he collected little fees by going door to door. Though not enough to elevate the family above the middle class, the work did enough to cover the bills. His mother, Muriel Evelyn Cross, was a homemaker who was highly conscious of her appearance and social behavior. Together, they created a family where social acceptance was paramount and financial concerns were commonplace. Because of these early pressures, Cleese developed a keen sense of humor about topics like class, regulations, and the ridiculous customs that people in Britain have on a daily basis. By the time he was 12, Cleese was already 6 feet tall. He stood out everywhere due to his height. Teachers at St. Peter's Preparatory School frequently gave him additional attention since he was so tall in comparison to the other children, and his pals called him skyscraper and beanpole. Even basic tasks become challenging. It was necessary to order his garments specifically. He couldn't sit at the regular chairs because it was too cramped. Additionally, he appeared to be an adult who didn't belong among the children in school. Photos. He slouched to make himself appear smaller since he felt horrible about himself rather than delighted. In addition to causing him pain, the constant taunting helped him create the physical humor that helped him become well known, particularly in the way he moved and walked on stage and screen. The bullying he endured made him extremely intelligent. It was merely a means of survival at first. He could change the topic, and even make those who were annoying him laugh if he used the appropriate word or phrase at the appropriate moment. In front of his bedroom mirror, he rehearsed facial expressions and lines until they were flawless. His father saw his fast tongue as a means of survival, but his mother feared it would land him in trouble. Over time, Cleese developed the ability to sense people's emotions and know when to lighten the mood with a joke. His strongest quality turned out to be what he used to defend himself. Cleese attended Bristol's prestigious Clifton College from 1953 to 1955, where he pretended to be successful in order to conceal his anxieties. In addition to excelling at writing in Latin, Greek, and English, he also became a very skilled cricket bowler. At last, he discovered a sport that benefited from his height. He became the leader of his house and became a member of the school's exclusive 20 club. Because he was intelligent, confident, and talented, everyone else believed he was an excellent student. Because he was worried that his low-income background would set him apart from his peers who hailed from more affluent backgrounds, he truly felt like he didn't belong. To ensure that he never appeared unprepared, he studied late into the night and committed portions to memory. His teachers complimented him on his maturity and responsibility, but they were unaware that his confidence and wit were defenses he had meticulously cultivated during years of combat. Cleese enrolled at Cambridge's Downing College to study law in 1958. His initial choice was Pembroke College, but he had to wait 2 years to begin because so many other students who had postponed their education to complete national service were beginning at the same time. He then returned as a teacher to his previous prep school. Upon arriving in Cambridge, he immediately set his sights on the renowned Footlights Theatre Club. At first, he was rejected, but he persisted. In 1961, he and another student, Alan Hutchison, penned the revue show's script. He was in charge of the club's records by 1962. He initially thought he wanted to be a lawyer, but quickly realized that wasn't his true calling. He met Graham Chapman there, and the two would go on to transform comedy's history. Their writing style was peculiar. The majority of the work would be done by Cleese, and Chapman would often be silent for extended periods of time before generating an idea that would alter the sketch. Among the most well-known was the drawing of the dead parrot. Chapman proposed changing Cleese's initial story about a faulty toaster to one about a deceased Norwegian blue parrot. It became one of Monty Python's most well-known sketches as a result. A Clump of Plinths was performed by Cleese and the Footlights at the Edinburgh Festival Fringe in 1963. Due to its success, the musical moved to London's West End on July 10th of that year. Some people were confused when it was renamed Cambridge Circus because they believed it to be the actual location. The cast included Joe Kendall, Graham Chapman, Chris Stewart Clark, Bill Oddie, David Hatch, and Tim Brooke Taylor. The play toured New Zealand in the summer of 1964. They produced 4 radio programs and a TV special while they were there, which were aired in November and December of that year. The ensemble then performed off-Broadway after performing on Broadway in September. They received the most recognition in October 1964 when they appeared on The Ed Sullivan Show in front of a sizable American audience. George Martin created an album of Parlophone's songs and sketches, which was released in 1963. They gained much more popularity as a result. In 1964, when he was 24 years old and touring with Cambridge Circus in New Zealand, Cleese finally revealed in his book that he had lost his virginity. According to him, it was a sudden, nearly unintentional moment that was formed more by luck than by willpower. He claimed that there weren't many homosexual people in his hometown of Weston-super-Mare, and that he didn't have many dating opportunities prior to moving to Cambridge. This late start revealed a different side of him. He was more reserved than others realized, and was bashful and uncomfortable with other people. After graduating from Cambridge, Cleese joined Graham Chapman on The Frost Report in 1965. Eric Idle, Terry Jones, Michael Palin, Bill Oddie, Tim Brooke Taylor, Barry Cryer, Marty Feldman, Ronnie Barker, and Ronnie Corbett were among the many intelligent people who contributed to the script. In British theatre, the group rose to prominence. On April 7, 1966, Cleese appeared in the well-known sketch Class. He was standing next to Ronnie Barker and Ronnie Corbett, whose varying heights accurately depicted the working, middle, and high classes. Standing 6 feet 5 inches tall and with an imposing look, Cleese personified the upper class. The British Film Institute later complimented the sketch's simplicity and sharpness, and it went on to become a classic. The BBC One premiere of Monty Python's Flying Circus took place on October 5, 1969. Viewers had never seen anything like it. The first episode, which was the first of 45 episodes that would span 4 series, had been recorded on September 7th, 1 month prior. It wasn't simply another comedy show. It defied convention by eschewing well-crafted punchlines and narratives, in favor of a series of impromptu ideas. With a great deal of creative flexibility, the ensemble explored the limits of comedy. They were compared to the Beatles in terms of their impact on music, and it was evident that they were revolutionizing comedy by the time they were awarded the 1988 BAFTA Award for Outstanding British Contribution to Cinema. The Dead Parrot sketch from the Full Frontal Nudity show was a huge hit. British culture adopted the joke about a shopkeeper who wouldn't acknowledge that a parrot was dead. Even though she didn't fully get the joke, Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher used it in a speech. Years later, it was nearly impossible to perform, since audiences enjoyed it so much that they would recite the lines with the actors when it was performed live. However, the group was experiencing severe issues behind the laughs. One of their top performers, Graham Chapman, was drinking, and the situation worsened as the performance continued. John Cleese acknowledged that he was sick of putting up with Chapman's drinking during the 3rd season. When they were filming Monty Python and the Holy Grail, in 1975, things reached a breaking point. When strong drinkers suddenly quit, they can develop this deadly disease. People who have had 7 or 8 pints of beer or half a liter of liquor daily for at least 10 years are typically affected. Chapman was so unwell that he needed a body, duplicate to go through the bridge of death scenario. Chapman was occasionally too inebriated to perform in college events, according to Michael Palin's subsequent journal entries, which resulted in altercations with Cleese following shows. After a while, Chapman understood that he had to quit drinking, but the harm was too enormous. At 48, he passed away. His open homosexuality and covert alcoholism were perceived by many as revealing the suffering that underpinned his notoriety. Cleese was on the verge of another pivotal moment. Eric Idle claims that although Cleese had considered leaving after the second season, he ultimately said to the troupe, "I want out," while flying to Toronto. Cleese claimed that he didn't care about being liked and that he became bored more quickly than the rest. Additionally, he claimed that just 2 of the sketches from Series 3, Dennis Moore and Cheese Shop, were genuinely unique, with the others feeling like they had already been done. He had formally left, however he was given credit for 3 episodes of the 4th series. The 4th season concluded after just 6 episodes, when the previous seasons featured 13 apiece. In the credits, the name of the show was abbreviated to simply Monty Python. A hotel owner named Basil Fawlty treated his patrons more like issues than like clients, as if he detested being a host. John Cleese portrayed him as a sardonic, cynical snob who wanted his hotel to draw affluent guests, but his rage always led to mayhem. Cleese received the British Academy Television Award for Best Entertainment Performance in 1980 because of how well he performed. According to a 2001 Channel 4 survey, Basil was voted the second greatest TV character of all time, behind Homer Simpson. Basil's ability to transform everyday human imperfections into hilarious humor is what made him so unforgettable. People all around the UK still remember him because of his rants, sarcasm, and unrelenting rage, which made him both vile and fascinating. The perfection of Fawlty Towers was what made it even more amazing. Only 12 episodes were produced, and it was divided into 2 series between 1975 and 1979. Before filming, Cleese and his co-writer Connie Booth worked through roughly 10 revisions of each script in an effort to make sure everything was flawless. They declined the opportunity to produce more episodes because they were so dedicated to quality. They were afraid that producing additional episodes only for financial gain would degrade the show's reputation, despite the fact that it was incredibly popular and could have brought them a lot. Given that the 2 series were separated by 4 years, the choice seemed odd at the time, but it turned out to be wise. Its decision to prioritize quality above number gave Fawlty Towers a permanent place in history, as evidenced by its 2000 designation as the best British television series of all time by the British Film Institute. Even the source of Basil Fawlty's inspiration was startling. Donald Sinclair, a former lieutenant captain in the Royal Navy who owned the Gleneagles Hotel in Torquay, served as the model for the character created by Cleese. In May 1970, the Monty Python crew stayed there to film Flying Circus. It turned into comedic gold because it was such a horrible experience. Sinclair's actions were nearly unthinkable. When a guest inquired about the next bus's arrival time, he threw a bus schedule at them. When an alarm clock caused Eric Idle's suitcase to ring, Sinclair concealed it behind a wall in the garden, believing it to be a bomb. Because he held his fork in the incorrect hand, he even warned Terry Gilliam that his table manners were too American. A waitress said that it seemed as though Sinclair didn't even want his guests to stay, and Cleese later referred to him as the rudest man he had ever met. The majority of the Pythons departed early, but Cleese and Booth remained to observe his conduct and transformed his impoliteness into Basil Fawlty's genius. Fawlty Towers was a global hit despite having only 12 half-hour episodes. Its themes of human foolishness, cultural conflicts, and socio-economic class resonated with audiences worldwide. Its structure and style were incorporated into American comedies such as The Office and Arrested Development, and its influence is still evident in television today. Its timing and ridiculous settings influenced the writing of contemporary sitcoms, demonstrating that the show's appeal extended well beyond Britain. Nearly half a century later, it is still hailed as one of the greatest comedies ever produced. There was more to John Cleese's career than Basil Fawlty. The comedy picture A Fish Called Wanda, which he co-wrote and starred in, became a global blockbuster as well. At $188 million at the box office, the film was the 7th highest-grossing film of that year. In addition to co-writing and producing the film, Cleese portrayed Archie Leach. He became well known throughout the world as a result. Cleese received a BAFTA for Best Actor, and Kevin Kline received an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. It was eventually ranked as the 39th best British film of the 20th century by the British Film Institute. It is often regarded by critics as the pinnacle of Cleese's career, demonstrating his capacity to create nuanced comedy that resonated on a global scale. Cleese's personal life was as convoluted as his professional life. Every episode of Fawlty Towers was co-created by him and American actress Connie Booth, whom he married in 1968. Cleese played the neurotic Basil, and Booth played the bright and trustworthy waitress, Polly. Despite their 1978 breakup, they remained close. Later, Cleese said that their marriage had been filled with love. But when Booth said she didn't hear from Cleese about his plans for a new Fawlty Towers project in 2023, but instead learned about them from the newspapers, things became tense. Even after all these years, their relationship remained complex, as she was horrified to learn that he would be writing it with his daughter Camilla. According to Cleese, he was passive in relationships. He claimed that he felt as though his first marriage had just happened. This practice cost him a lot of money and persisted in his subsequent relationships. His 3 divorces cost him roughly $25 million, with the third one alone costing him more than $12 million. Because he didn't comprehend money and didn't find it fascinating, he was at risk. From 1981 to 1990, he was married to American actress Barbara Trentham for the second time. His divorce from Trentham was far more costly and marked the beginning of the legal and financial issues that would worsen in his third marriage, in contrast to his divorce from Connie Booth, which was just and didn't involve the need for attorneys. Alice Faye Eichelberger wasn't wealthy when John Cleese first met her in 1990, but her extensive background as a psychotherapist gave her a certain gravitas. She had obtained 2 master's degrees in educational psychology from Baylor University and had trained under Anna Freud at the Hampstead Clinic. She also had over 30 years of experience as a therapist, which allowed her to have a profound understanding of human emotions and thought processes. She described to Cleese early on in their relationship that she had a black heart, and that if he ever ventured to leave her, he would see it. Although it sounded like an odd, almost light-hearted remark, at the moment, it was actually the most sincere caution she had ever given him. After being married on December 28, 1992, they spent 16 years together. Cleese ought to have had some of his best years during that time. His career was at its height, with films like A Fish Called Wanda earning him millions of pounds, and Monty, Python and Fawlty Towers already in the annals of history. He amassed a fortune over those years, acquiring residences in New York and California, and purchasing a stunning mansion in Holland Park, London, without taking out a mortgage. In actuality, however, the marriage was completely different because Alice Faye made very little financial contribution. In reality, Cleese spent 16 years creating an empire that would eventually be destroyed in one of the most agonizing ways imaginable. He subsequently remarked, "I got off easy. Think what I would have had to pay if she'd contributed anything." The settlement was severe when they got divorced in January 2008. Cleese had to give up almost $20 million. The sale comprised half of a Santa Barbara beach house, a $2 million home in Holland Park, an apartment in New York, and $8 million in cash and assets. Additionally, he was required to pay between $600,000 and $900,000 a year for 7 years, until 2016. The figures were insane. Consequently, despite the fact that they were childless and that she had done nothing to assist Cleese in his success, Alice Faye became wealthier than him. California's community property laws had permitted what he called a financial massacre. Cleese was incensed and remarked, "What I find so unfair is that if we both died today, her children would get much more than mine, despite the fact that they were childless and that she had done nothing to help him succeed." Alice Faye became wealthier than him. That dream vanished after that. He had to take out a mortgage and relocate into a small apartment in Sloane Square. It was more than just a change of residence. It was the loss of the stability and security he had spent his entire life striving for. He then acknowledged that he didn't own a house or even a car, even though his estimated net worth was approximately $20 million. "I am surprisingly impoverished," he admitted. After the divorce, Cleese claimed to have had suicidal thoughts and even sought treatment at a facility due to the extreme stress. He openly referred to it as the alimony tour in order to deal with the financial setback. On May 3, 2011, it started in Cambridge and traveled to Birmingham, Bath, Liverpool, Oxford, Leeds, Edinburgh, and Glasgow, before coming to an end in Bristol. At the age of 71, he was touring the world to settle his debt with his ex-wife. His weariness was noted by critics. According to the Daily Mail, he appeared pathetic in the truest sense of the word. The Times described his presentation as perfectly pleasant, but lacking the spark that had made him famous. The humor website Chortle claimed that he appeared to be pleading penury and had read the script from a tape rather than memorizing. Even Cleese acknowledged that his actions were only to fuel the alimony payment beast. It was difficult to disregard the public disgrace for a comic genius. Even at 85, Cleese continues to work at a rate that few people his age would try. The West End of London is home to the Fawlty Towers stage production, and there are plans to perform adaptations of A Fish Called Wanda and Life of Brian. Between 2015 and 2023, he earned between $500,000 and $750,000 annually from his tours. But because he needs the money, he continues to work. When questioned why he continues to work at such a late age, he has been forthright, saying, "Well, you're quite right. But there's only one person responsible for that." He also handed his fourth wife, jewelry designer Jennifer Wade, who is 31 years younger than him, his $1.25 million Chelsea apartment. He wanted her to feel secure. Therefore, he took this action. "I did it to make her feel safe. The saddest thing about the world is that so many women feel unsafe. That's not a good lifestyle." He stated, "The flat was a big part of what was left, and the choice left me with not much of my own. Still, if it helped her feel better, he believed it was worth it."